Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady, checking in with part 1 of my weekly garden tour. As you can see, I am filthy. It's because though I came out with the intention of making this video when it was much brighter outside, I got distracted mulching, and I'm glad I did because as you can see behind me, the wave of it has been completely cleaned out. I did reseed it, but I have very low expectations because keeping it watered is basically impossible. But I do think it looks so much neater with that fresh mulch layer, and I think now the front yard looks acceptable even if we aren't going to be able to keep everything irrigated. That being said, we are drier than ever. It's really disconcerting. I would expect that, I can't believe we're not already in some sort of like water restriction because we should be. But I'm making the decision that we really can't keep the entire garden watered, and so anything really away from what I call in my first book, Foodscape Revolution, Zone 1, everything outside of Zone 1 is not going to get the amount of water that we've been giving it, just because it doesn't feel like the right decision, both economically and environmentally. So with that being said, let me turn the camera around so that you can see how everything's looking. A lot of wilt, a lot of brown grass, but you know, some of the gardens are really lush and beautiful, and well, every year is different, and this year is not my favorite year. Well, since we're way out here at the end of the driveway, we'll look at this shrub border. This has not been irrigated at all. The other side gets irrigated, and you can actually see, like you can see where water is falling and there's grass that's getting wet. That's because I'm just desperately trying to keep these, you know, 1.5-year-old borders wet enough so that they don't all die. I don't want to have to replace all these plants. So this side has been getting watered, but over here hasn't. And really, eucomas are such rock stars. They would like some water, don't get me wrong, but they don't look like death. And there's a lot to be said about that. You can see that Nephaphia that was just starting to put out blooms last week is starting to flower now. And again, zero watering at all. We've gotten 2.5 inches of rain since April. So not a lot of water. But you know, the trees and shrubs in this border they got planted in 2012. So no, I'm sorry, 2011. So they're pretty well established, and they're proving they don't need to be watered nearly as much as so many of these annual borders or the new beds that aren't as well established. And so, you know, it's just important things to pay attention to with, you know, how you manage your garden and where you allocate your water, particularly if we do get into water restrictions. Well, this big annual border is not drought tolerant, like not drought tolerant at all. And I love it. And in ordinary years, I do water it, but nowhere near like I'm having to right now to keep everything from wilting every day. And this has been planted for, I'm going to say, well, since before before the spring open garden. So, you know, going on 2 months. And yeah, it's just, we've been dry, and the air is dry. The air is also very, very hot. Today was 106 with the heat index, and no rain. So the first thing I do every morning is turn the sprinkler on here. And this is the bed that this bed and a few beds out back are the beds I'm concentrating on, and the rest is I'm gonna water just to make sure that, you know, the trees and shrubs don't totally suffer. Obviously, we haven't done anything here, but I have started doing some deep watering, particularly on this cinnamomum and on that Japanese maple. I'd like to not lose some of the established trees. These Hydrangea paniculata were flagged so far, I didn't think they would actually come back. So it's pretty amazing that they have, although I've lost some arborescens because I did not water this until just a few days ago. And though I have been running a sprinkler on this corner, well, you can see where the phlox isn't wilted versus here, the sprinkler isn't reaching this pocket. And you can see here is another hydrangea arborescens that I just need to put some extra hoses on so I can actually access this part of the garden. Again, I'd prefer not to lose these native plants, but just because something's native doesn't mean that it can withstand the conditions that we're going through right now. And, you know, I'm tired of seeing plants overly simplified to the idea that just because they're local means that they're better adapted, because there's nothing that's better adapted to the kind of, you know, drought that we're going through right now other than succulents. Since I'm quickly running out of daylight, I'll just take you across the front porch. I've revamped containers, and you know, I mentioned succulents, and the mangaves aren't skipping a beat. To be honest, they're sort of outgrowing the wall. I was thinking about reorienting the wall. It's easy enough because these are just like window boxes that slide off. So we might do that, just because you see these are really growing and they're getting stuck under this level, and I'd rather them not get stuck. I'd rather them be able to grow out to their full size. And well, I need to try planting them in the ground. Maybe they'll overwinter successfully. And obviously, as I mentioned, zone 1, that's the beds nearest your foundation of your house. It's the beds you have easiest access to hose. These are the beds that I'm concentrating my efforts on watering. I did clear out this corner, which had still been blooming with California poppies and corn poppies, and went ahead and got some coleus, some basil, and some cupia added just to make this whole border kind of cohesive and organized looking. The rice here is doing great. It definitely likes the additional water that it gets from being in this pond liner. And we are adding BT dunks to all the rice paddies. I will make a video just so everybody understands that process. It's really easy and straightforward. And coming around here, just gonna take you around the zone 1 part of the house that's getting watered. So these are doing well, except that I've lost an okra. Not exactly sure what happened, but that's all right. That's why I like to overplant. And you know, these borders that got put in earlier are starting to fill out nicely, but again, they wilt every day if they don't get watered. So my beloved plant palette that includes a lot of coleus is really not the right decision for a dry climate. Generally in North Carolina, we're not dry. We get usually we get tons of rain, which is why I adapted to this kind of plant palette to begin with. But this year is different and I don't like it. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like dry climate. I would never move to Arizona on purpose. And I don't like it when North Carolina's in a drought. I have been watering this big stand of phlox paniculata because of course it's in full bloom, and full bloom 2 months earlier than usual. And I did get all of this cleaned up, and I'm really proud and excited to show you that I do have a pathway that's totally clear and accessible. You can get in behind the bananas. And I promised that I would give a redwood update. And I'm so glad that I didn't cut the whole tree down, because, you know, I cut the leader and now all these new leaders have formed. So there's lots of healthy new growth. I'm really not sure what caused the original problem. I never did get my sample back. I think it got lost. But for now, this redwood is doing a lot better than I would have anticipated. And I mean, I know it's gonna have a really funny shape, but that's okay. Just glad it's not dead. Well, I'm quickly running out of daylight, but I wanted to end here just to show you the succulents don't mind this horrible weather. And if you haven't gotten into succulents, this is probably the year that you should. If for no other reason, to have them in pots that you don't have to tend to every second of the day. I highly recommend mangave, even if they aren't hardy in your region. They're beautiful to bring inside in the winter as houseplants. But I do look forward to giving you part 2 tomorrow. I promise I'll shoot it before the sun goes down. And I'm certainly wishing you the best, keeping my fingers crossed that at least some of you who watch my videos are getting rain. And if you are, can you please send me some? All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching, and happy gardening.